All right, so welcome to this module on effective teaching techniques, as the title is there. And in this module, my goal is to cover some concepts relating to teaching and learning, and then discuss a few proven techniques which make teaching more effective. Right? There is a lot of literature on teaching and how do you make teaching better, but I want to just focus on a few which people can apply very quickly. First, I thought maybe I'll just share my background so you can understand where I'm coming from and how I got interested in effective teaching. So I'm a background, I've a BTech from IIT Kanpur and PhD from Urbana-Champaign. I'm actually a computer science faculty and was a faculty member since 1985 in IIT Kanpur, IIT Delhi, IIIT Delhi. But when I was the director of IIIT Delhi, I wanted to provide good quality education. So first we design very high quality syllabus which focus on concepts and so on. And then we realize that most of us teachers, we all focus a lot more on teaching and sort of not so much on student learning. So we held an Indo-US workshop, I think in 2010 or something, on effective teaching. And then I designed this module on effective teaching techniques. And then I started offering it to faculty in IIIT Delhi, IIT Delhi, and some other forums. And now this module. Okay, the basic realization I have is that many teachers in colleges and universities, they can improve their teaching by applying some simple techniques. Okay? We don't have to go to elaborate. Just a few techniques can make teaching that much more effective. And so the intent of this workshop is to explore with teachers what are these techniques, so hopefully they can apply it in their teaching. So what's the scope of this module? Because education is a very, very big thing. We know an educational program, a BTech, a BS, BA, what have you, it has a structure over 3, 4, 5 years. Right? And each semester you will teach some courses. So ideally, the program should have some goals. Typically, what the graduates ought to possess at the time of graduation, and then the program designs a network of courses. Right, some courses in the first semester, second semester, etc., and each course contributes towards that overall goal. Right. So the program and curriculum design itself is a very complicated task, and that's something completely out of scope of this module. But it finally boils down to a set of courses that are to be taught. Okay? And those are the courses that we as faculty teach. And this workshop is really focusing on teaching a course. So you're assigned a course to teach in a semester, and we are looking on effective teaching of that course. So that's the limited scope of this. So how do we usually teach? Okay. So typically we will define the topics to be covered, right? This is sort of common approach to teaching. We list out the topics to be covered in the course. That's what we call syllabus. Then we give lectures, either of 50 minutes or 1 hour, 20 minutes. And we give lectures focusing on concepts. Maybe we'll do some examples. And typically at the end of the lecture, we may ask, are there any questions? And often students really don't ask too many questions. And then so we give lectures, then we give some assignments on topics that we've covered, and then we give out some exams and tests to assessing the students. And that's really the common approach to teaching. So the focus of teaching is typically on covering the syllabus. So the list of topics, we must cover the syllabus. And the focus of exam is really on grading. How do we give ABCD grade or marks to students, assess the student, so there's fairness and comparison. But that's what really the focus is. But this common approach to teaching is not effective. So lectures, so the mainstay of these is lectures, and lectures are largely transmissive. You stand and deliver the lecture with relatively little student interaction. And various studies have shown that retention from a lecture is typically less than 10%. It increases to 20% with various audiovisual and multimodal lecturing. It increases a little bit, but it's very, very low. And the studies have shown that students are 1.5 times more likely to fail than students in classes that use some active learning techniques, which we will discuss in the course. But first thing is that lectures as a basic mainstay for teaching is not a very effective tool in itself. We need to do something in it, and we'll discuss that as we go. The other thing to keep in mind is that the student's attention span, or actually any person's attention span, is typically of the order of 15 minutes. After that, it wanes considerably, unless you do something to bring that up. So this is another reason for low retention rate, that students' attention has gone away, and so they're not able to retain what is being covered. And in fact, that's one of the reasons why TED Talks are 18 minutes long, because of your attention span. So lecture and the list of topics focused teaching is not effective. It is globally being challenged, and globally people are trying to do things beyond just this, right? And we will discuss some of those. So I think this to my mind is the heart of what we are, teaching and learning. So the cartoon says, I taught Stripe how to whistle. And the friend says, but I don't hear him whistling. And then the first person says, I said I taught him. I didn't say he learned it. And that, I think, is the biggest dichotomy, biggest challenge in teaching, that you may teach something, but has the person who you're teaching to, has he or she learned? So the goal of teaching actually is learning. While we call it teaching, it really is about learning. The goal of teaching by teachers is squarely learning by students. There is no other goal. We are not there for teaching's sake or teachers' sake. We are there to ensure that students learn. And we often forget this focus, when we start focusing on teaching issues, make the slide prettier, practice your lecture multiple times before, so you communicate better, etc., etc. All those help, but only slightly. So teaching effectiveness is really about not how well you've given a lecture, though that could be competent. It's really about how well the students learn. That's effective teaching, and not how well we have lectured. In fact, in some studies, it has been shown that sometimes professors who are very eloquent lecturers, who can do a good show, students don't end up learning much, because they are mesmerized and they're just sort of listening, and they're not really getting learning much. So in any case, it's not about that style. The main thing is that teaching effectiveness is really how well the students learn. Without learning, there is really no teaching. Only we've done our teaching job, but there has been no real teaching. There is no real learning. So if us teachers can change our focus from teaching to learning of students, we can begin our journey to becoming more effective teachers. So teaching and research in higher education, we know that often universities have twin goals, teaching and research. While we learn how to do research in our PhD, we don't really learn how to teach. We generally learn it on the job. So this effort, this workshop is an effort in that direction. We will discuss how we can be more effective in teaching. So effective teaching brings its own satisfaction. If you are an effective teacher, you feel more satisfied. And I should point out that teaching can be a research activity also. There are many journals and conferences on teaching, where results of teaching experiments, approaches can be published. So there is IEEE transactions, there's ACM transactions, there's many conferences. So teaching can also be research. It is not that you do research on something else, teaching on something else. While you can do that, but teaching can also be research. Okay, so teaching of a course, we require two, for effective teaching of a course, we require two orthogonal skills if you want to be an effective teacher. One is the subject matter expertise, and the other is knowledge and application of effective teaching practices. What is known is that even with subject matter expertise, teaching may not be effective. You may be expert in your knowledge in the subject, but that does not mean you are an effective teacher. That does not mean students will learn well. So that's where effective teaching practices help. But without subject matter knowledge, a teacher is very constrained. If you yourself don't have knowledge, then how do you teach it? For this workshop, we are assuming that the instructor has decent subject matter. Okay, we are not covering a subject matter. We are not talking about some computer science course or physics or math. So if you're weak in subject matter knowledge, then you need to work on it through other means. So this is what to my mind means that you need to have subject matter expertise and you need to have effective teaching. If you're low on both, there will be very little learning by your students. If you're high on both, you have good knowledge and you're applying some good practices for effective teaching, high learning will happen, which is what is the goal of teaching. But otherwise, if you are medium if your knowledge is not that good, it is okay. But you can apply effective teaching practices. Then at least the medium level learning can happen because at least the student can learn what you already do. Okay. So, regardless of whether you are a subject matter expert or you have lesser knowledge, you can improve your teaching. Your teaching can become more effective if you apply effective teaching. All right. So that's what we were discussing. Even with subject knowledge and understanding, teaching may not be effective. And all of us with subject knowledge can become better teachers. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Okay? And by just applying some techniques, and this workshop hopes to cover some of them, so you can apply. Interestingly, you will if you look around and you'll see most large universities globally have teaching and learning centers to help faculty. They'll conduct workshops like this and much more. And if you just go Wikipedia itself lists some of them in 50, and even the top research universities, which have faculty who are par excellence in their subject matter, even they have such centers because they realize that subject matter expertise, while necessary to do good teaching, is not sufficient. So they have these centers in even in these top universities. So I've listed CMU has, Cornell has, MIT has, Berkeley has. So all even the top universities give. So this just shows how seriously these universities, which have best subject matter experts, they take this effective teaching techniques how seriously. In India, we sort of focus mostly around the content, the subject matter, and we have not yet given too much importance to effective teaching techniques. So this is a small effort in that direction to cover more effective teaching techniques. Okay, I should also mention there is a vast body of literature. There are many journals, many different areas of research. All these centers that I mentioned, they also do research in teaching and learning. There are dozens of books on teaching itself. There are many books, and of course, on learning, there is a lot more. So, what I've done is there's this huge body of knowledge. I just identified a few concepts, few key concepts which are very important. They've been proven to be effective and they can have an immediate impact. And you can apply it relatively easily. So that's the value proposition for this workshop for you, that you don't have to do the literature survey. You can quickly get going with some of these.